I see it right now.
Okay, just give them a moment to put this thing up. Thanks very much, Wai. You can move on to the next one, really. Thanks. Yeah. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our very special session. It's called the Employers Forum. Before we begin, let me say one small thing about the intended purpose of this session. We're really here not to directly, straightforwardly talk about CHS for this session. It really is meant to be about the world out there, the world of work today. It's not even the world of work tomorrow, it's the world of work today. And that's the reason why we have invited four leaders who are in their respective industries, respective fields, to come share some insights about the trends that are going on out there. And we have someone who is in the data space, or someone who is in the green and sustainability space, someone who is from publishing, media, and someone who is from medical technologies, right? So I'm going to introduce them a bit more in more details, but just to give you a sense of what we're trying to do here, we're going to have a panel where I'm going to invite each of them to share something from their respective perspective, and then after that we'll take a general Q&A. Yeah, thanks, Wai. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So let me begin by introducing the first panel speaker. She is the Chief Data Officer at Grab-Singtel consortium. I'm not going to necessarily read all the different details that you can see for yourself. This Dr. Geraldine Wong. But when we were organizing this, I asked all the panelists to tell me 2 fun facts about themselves that I can share today. So she gave me the following 2. She's someone who wanted to save the world and tried to do this through her past life as a researcher in climate change and extreme environmental events, and that she has lived in 4 countries over a decade. I'm counting at least 2 different continents as well. So without any further ado, I'll pass the time over to you, Geraldine. Yeah. And she's going to be talking to us about consumer engagement in the digital economy. Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Professor Loy. A very good afternoon to one and all here. I'm really excited to be on this diverse panel amongst very distinguished panelists as well. So maybe a very quick sharing from my part of things where I am really working with the digital world, and I believe even some of the panelists here who is on the publishing end would also be working with the digital world. As we all know, I think as consumers, we are always on, always connected. I'm pretty sure most of you here will be on your phones day in, day out, probably more than 12 hours a day, every waking time of your lives, right? However, we also as consumers, we now expect to be able to get what we need very instantaneously. Go on Shopee, go on Shopify, whatever it is, you click a button, you get it. And with COVID, I think consumer behavior has changed. You would have noticed yourself, new habits have formed. And with that, actually the bigger implications, if you think about it from a data standpoint, is the different types of data that you collect. It's all going to be very different. That what used to be the touch points that didn't used to exist would now be collected as a result of how we have changed, how have our behaviors have changed as COVID accelerated some of these types of data, some of this digital collection of data. So I want to say is the ability for companies out there, myself, everyone else here, the ability to collect, to store, to manage all of our consumer data in a meaningful, ethical manner is what really differentiates the company. And if companies are not able to logically use the data, then I think it's not going to be a very competitive advantage for them. They're not going to be able to maintain that market leadership. In parallel, I think digital engagement has also increased in consumers within heavy regulated industries, and you would think about a few. For example, I guess most of you would use digibanking on DBS or on some of the apps. But there's also telemedicine that has now accelerated. When people test COVID positive, people go on the TeleDocs, HelloDocs, whatever you have it. And those are really regulated industries that used to be face-to-face, that you could only see a doctor then. But now it's so simple. You just go on your app and you can see the doctor to get your prescription or your diagnosis as well. So I must say that those are kind of a few angles that we are looking at in different channels as well. And the last thing I want to add actually is quite important is as companies search and create those right digital touch points, and by no means it's easy because there's a fine balance between friction and engagement. You don't like to be bombarded with so many messages all the time asking you to sign up for marketing messages, but yet they also want to engage you, right? I think the important thing to note that behind all of this, there are also risks involved. And there is increasing trends towards how we think about data ethics, how we think about your privacy involving the data that you collect, and how you think about the security of the data that we collect from you as well. So yeah, with that, I'd like to conclude this short sharing and pass it over to Professor Loy.
Thanks so much, Geraldine. That was really very insightful. So it's not just about the technical ability to deal with the data, but just as importantly, the social and ethical implications that is coming out as well. That's very, very interesting. Yeah. Our next speaker, let's have the next person here, is Mr. Vera, second run. So he's the founder and managing director of Greenology. Okay, and he's basically he's in the green and sustainability space. Vera, is your video okay? Is your video able to come on?
I'm having. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
I'm having issues with my video. I just came back in, but I'm not sure why it's not working. Apologize.
No problem. You know what? Are you okay sharing without the video?
Yeah, I'm okay with sharing without the video. Apologize for this.
No problem.
Yes, guys, sorry. I've been running around quite a bit. Well,
wait, hold on a second. Wait. Don't forget the fun facts. Okay, right. So I asked them to share 2 fun facts about themselves, and this is what he said. My students, when I was teaching in the NUS Masters of Landscape Architecture program, had a nickname for me. They call me the plant whisperer. So you better explain yourself and run. And the second one is pencil box boy. He's the pencil box boy in NDP 2018. And there's actually there's a short intro that we can share later as well. Viran, please take it away. And he's going to be sharing about sustainable solutions for a green future. Yeah.
Hi everyone. My journey has been quite interesting. I started off, someone asked me only yesterday, right, about whether I knew what I wanted to do when I was growing up. And as with most kids nowadays, it's still a little bit more work in progress, even at this stage of my life. I have sort of like figured out what I want to do, but I want to do more. And I think that's always the journey that we have, right? So when they asked me, why am I doing what I'm doing? I said, well, I was good at one thing that I knew. I could remember Latin names. Right, and Latin names was about biology and botany and horticulture and stuff like that, and zoology as well. That sort of like pushed me to the natural world, so to speak. So I realized that I had a tendency to remember some of these very, very complicated Latin names about botanical names of plants and animals as well. So I realized that along the way I was pretty good at an outdoor environment. So nature-based solutions and nature-based careers were something that I was very good at, and I basically went along that path. Lo and behold, after so many years of being in the green industry, I went on to start my own company called Greenology. Greenology does interesting work, and we do a lot of urban greening solutions for Singapore and around the world. I realized that just doing and understanding only botany and plants wasn't enough. So I started to learn a lot more things as I went along my career as well. I realized that I needed to understand engineering, because plant-based systems now are not just about digging a hole and planting them. I realized that I needed to then understand facade engineering to allow my plants to grow on the walls of buildings. So I developed my own green wall systems that's now in many countries around the world, patented some of them. And I went on to develop lights, because I realized when I wanted to have plants indoors, plants wouldn't grow without light. Photosynthesis doesn't happen. So then I decided to learn photonics, and I went to develop my own grow lights that allowed me to then to grow plants inside. So some of my lights are in farms in different parts of Singapore and around the world. I even supply the lights to Changi Airport for some of the plants and trees to grow inside as well. And it moved on from lights. Then I went on to develop farming systems. So now I'm a consultant for controlled environment agriculture in Singapore. I'm also now one of the ones that are developing automation systems for farms for NUS as well as a consultant. So you realize that, my journey has been quite interesting for me because I started doing so many different areas. I started understanding sensors now. So now I'm developing my own green intelligence networks. Then you realize I started as someone who's botany and career guy, and I went on to develop so many other disciplines that I started to then start connecting the dots, as it were, right? I realized that that's actually very important for us to understand that you might start in one aspect of your career, and then you realize that your journey, right, will try and allow you to then discover and explore and discover many other things as well. And in your journey of discovery, then you start taking things and putting them together, and you realize that the dots that you've accumulated and the experience and knowledge that you've accumulated will always bring you up further and further up the career path as you go along. So to say that your life is only one siloed thinking of one career might not be the only thing that you'll do in your life. You realize that actually you'll be able to do a lot more as you go along. And as when you're young, you realize your potentials have not been discovered. And you realize that, as you go along, you will discover your own potentials, or if not, other people will discover your potentials and might also guide you along the way. So whatever you start off as learning in the university or going on to a higher place of learning, it's about discovery and exploration and understanding your potentials as you come along as well. And you realize once you start to realize that, it gets better and better as you go along.
Hey, thanks so much. That was very, very interesting. So you end up learning so many different things. Goodness. Yeah. Well, it's always good to hear from you. Our next speaker is Ms. Lo Wen Yan. She is the managing editor of Chinese Media Group in SPH. And she shares the following two fun facts with me. Number one, and I quote, I'm very tall for a woman. I won't mention the exact height, a fact that will not be evident in an online meeting. Secondly, I'm a coffee junkie who cannot function without coffee. So I hope that you have gotten your coffee today. I need at least 2 doses of coffee a day. First thing when I wake up and after lunch, right? And Ms. Lo is going to be sharing with us about the adoption of digital technologies in the cultural and media content. Please, yeah.
Hi everyone. Hope you are all well and having a good start to the week. So just a bit about what I do. I'm a managing editor of a Chinese Media Group at SPH Media. As you probably know, SPH Media is the company which is now under a not-for-profit structure that owns the Straits Times, the Lianhe Zaobao, Business Times, amongst other titles. So the Chinese Media Group encompasses all the Chinese language titles like Lianhe Zaobao, Xinmin, student publications, etc. So the role that I play is somewhat like a chief operating officer role. I oversee the newsroom admin, operations, budgets, as well as internationalization efforts and the business aspects as well. So as I was thinking about the topic of today's talk, I started about 20 years ago, and I was pondering about what course to take in university after my A-levels and all that. At that time, I've never ever imagined or envisaged myself landing in such a role in the future. So I did accounting and finance in university, but I started my career in journalism in Lianhe Zaobao, writing business news in Chinese. It seemed an unusual decision to take, but it worked out quite well for me in hindsight. And so after business journalism for 8 years, I joined a Singapore-listed company to do investor relations and corp comms. And thereafter, I rejoined the newsroom as business editor, digital editor, before landing in my current role. So in this current role, it was really a culmination of all the various disciplines and skill sets that I had acquired in university and in each job after that enabled me to do this role. So the knowledge of the newsroom operations from my days as a journalist, understanding of the media industry and the challenges it faces when I was a business and digital editor, and the digital transformation that's required in the newsroom, as well as the stakeholder management skills that I acquired in the listed company. And so applying all this and accounting and finance knowledge helped me to grasp also the economics of running a media business. I would say that my journey is actually not unique, as Vera had mentioned earlier. So the career pathways of many people I know follow the same pattern. They will major something in university, but eventually find themselves in a different field, and it will continue to evolve in their career. However, I think one discipline that has become quite essential across all industries is really digital technology. So we've been talking about digitalization and ability to be tech-enabled, and this is important in whatever field or industry that we will embark on. And COVID-19 has just accelerated the pace of adoption of digital technology by consumers and companies. So in the world of media content development, and I'll narrow this down to news content, as this is the area I'm most familiar with, the adoption of digital technology began way before COVID-19, as this was necessitated by the change in the news consumption preferences of our audiences. Most of our audiences are now consuming content on digital platforms, and newsrooms now devote a significant chunk of the resources producing video, audio, and other types of digital content. But besides content, it has also become imperative for media companies like SPH to have tech talent who can build world-class digital products and ensure the reliable delivery of the content on digital platforms, as well as ensure delightful user experience when consuming our content or using our apps. We also need data scientists and analysts to collect and analyze data to help us better understand our audiences, what type of news they prefer, what time do they read it, are our videos being viewed, who's viewing it, how engaged are our viewers, and all these data will help the newsrooms better understand the type and format of content that's relevant to our audiences and what engages our audiences. So, and hence, besides journalists and content producers, we've been hiring developers, data analysts, product managers, talents from other disciplines as well. And what we are aiming to do is to cultivate an infusion across disciplines. So journalists will understand this digital technology. They do not need to know how to code or mine data, but they need to know how to make sense of the data and use the data to sharpen the stories that they write and help them become better journalists. So after years of digital transformation, I think it's all still work in progress. But what I see really is an exciting congruence of different disciplines within the industry and also constantly learning from other disciplines that will ultimately help to add value to the company as well as to our audiences. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, thanks so much, right? So this is actually very interesting because Geraldine kind of began from the other direction. Starting to think in terms of data, but also moving on and thinking about privacy and ethics and all that. And then, you on the other hand, you start with something a little bit more, in one sense, perhaps more traditional, like sort of journalism and writing and all that. But then realizing that actually the digital part of it you cannot avoid, you have to sort of branch out into that. So there you have it, right? So you may try to escape it, but you cannot escape. Yeah, good to have you, Wen Yan. Our last panelist, let's have the next slide, is Mr. Teo Ki Meng. He's the Managing Director for Business Development at Transmatic Group. So this is a medical technology group. And when I asked him to share 2 fun facts about himself, this is what he wrote, and I quote. The first one is, quote, "I am short." I had to read it.
I'm glad we're on air.
Right. The second one is, "I have a prominent mole on my forehead." Similar to NUS president. Well, Ki Meng, it's your turn now. Yeah. Wait, let me say something. Landscape of medical technology in Singapore, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. I'm glad to join this forum. Well, a little bit about myself. I'm an entrepreneur. When I was in secondary school, when my teacher asked me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to be a business owner." And I really worked towards that. Right. So opportunity came when I was an NUS student, or rather SU student, not NUS. That tells you how old am I. My campus was Bukit Timah. And I was given a chance to be a service engineer when hemodialysis, or rather a treatment to save kidney patients, started in Singapore. I was asked to service a few machines that's at home. And as a student, I carry a toolkit, put it in the locker, and whenever I get called, I will skip class, or I skip practical and go and service the machine. Well, because of that, I have become very interested in the medical technology, and it has been about 40 years, and MedTech has grown a lot. Just give you an example. Those days when I first started with the dialysis to serve these patients, we had the big machines. They reuse it. We only have 30 patients in Singapore. Today in Singapore, there are 5,000 patients, saving the lives of these people in NKF, KDF, or all the private centers. And that's how the technology evolved. Now it's a small disposable cartridge and a smaller machine that patients can do at home or in the center. Then, of course, another thing that I get involved as I see the evolvement of MedTech is people who has a heart failure. They cannot get heart transplant easily because the heart doesn't come readily available, right? So how do they live if they qualify to get a a device, and there came the era of a small device that can put into the heart of the patient, and he can power himself to live normal lives. And a big name who has this device before he get transplanted and pass away is Dick Cheney, former, once upon a time, the defense secretary of US. And of course, a lot of time people talk about surgery, right? Those days when you do surgery, you do open cut and look for the tumor or the organ. But today we're talking about minimally invasive, and it's driven by robotic assisted surgery. Some of you might have read about a well-known a company called Da Vinci, or Intuitive Surgical, Da Vinci surgery. And our PM was using this device when just before the election. He had prostate cancer and he was using this device. But time has passed, not that long, but today we're talking about completely incisionless surgery using focused ultrasound, and it's happening. And what's the reason why MedTech is exploding? I think basically, if you look at what is happening, is people live longer, they are more knowledgeable, they find knowledge on the internet, and because they are wealthier now, they want better quality of life. They will not accept open surgery and have pain. They will not accept staying in the hospital for a long time. They want to go home. They want to be monitored at home. And with all these advances in chip technology, in 3D printing, in microfluidics, genomics advancement, this is where I think this is a very exciting space if you're involved. And the difference is, if you look at what we spend money all the time in our life, what a big part of our life that we spend money on is really healthcare, our health. And therefore, I think it's an exciting industry. And, there are many broad spectrum that people can be involved in. Today, there's a lot of, MedTech manufacturer. There are a lot of pharmaceutical manufacturer in Singapore. There are easily 300 startups in the MedTech space in Singapore. Of course, ISRO is even more. ISRO has 1,000. Recently I went on a forum, and we thought we have a lot, but they have 1,000. So there are 300 people involved in MedTech startup in Singapore. There are another 300 medical company here that covers the region. So, this is an exciting field for whoever wants to be involved in different capacity. This is my sharing first part. Thanks, Prof. Loy.
Wonderful. That is very interesting. Yeah. And you were a science graduate, right? I remember.
Yes, I am.
And you were already an entrepreneur even back in the day.
Yeah, because I wanted to be one, so I have been working towards it.
Yeah.
And today, I've been running this business. We cover the whole ASEAN. We are more than 100 million in business revenue.
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, we can stop sharing the screen already. I just want to point out that actually, because what Kim mentioned actually reminded me of something. We actually have a lot of students in NUS who are very interested in entrepreneurial space, including arts and social science students. So you may not realize it, but actually there are a lot of them. Not all of them are social enterprise, just enterprise in general, right? So NUS has a very, very nice program called the NUS Overseas Colleges that emphasizes startup, and so you're embedded in the overseas startup for a whole year and all that. And usually a quarter to a third of those students are actually from FASS, and of course there's another big chunk from science as well. So if you're interested in that space, please go and Google for NUS Overseas Colleges. Okay, come, let's start answering some questions. Some have already started coming in, and I'm going to curate them and invite people to answer. So maybe this one, I think maybe all four of you can say something about it, but we can just take turns. So the first one is, with the evolving industry landscape, right? Let me put it in the simplest way, right? So given our current situation, are you able to find people with the right skill sets to fill the jobs that you guys put out, right? What are the skills and knowledge that that the employers are likely to look for, especially in this COVID and post-COVID kind of era? Who wants to go first? Vera, you want to go first, or Geraldine? Perhaps one of you want to go first? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can try.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I've got it. So one of the things I've realized and the staff that I've employed throughout the years are not necessarily have got anything to do with plants or botany. You realize that I've actually hired a lot of engineers. I've hired architects, electronics guys, and many other disciplines, right? In this world, right, one of the things that everyone needs to understand, and what I've also begun to understand, is that if I keep hiring the guys, the students, or people with the same discipline as me, I realize that my learning ability is also narrow, and their learning ability is also narrow, and that also doesn't work for the company. So what I've done is I've hired people from outside my discipline, and it's been very, very engaging, honestly, right? Because I think when they come in, the first thing that I ask is your attitude and your intention and what your passion is and what you want to do next. And many of them have walked into the office and they say, Mr. Vera, I'd like to try working with you and understand nature a little bit more, get involved. When I see them, and my interviews usually last only about 5 to 10 minutes, not longer, typically, right? Because I always look for that glint in your eye, right? When you speak and you speak with some passion, with an intention, and I can sense that you really want to do what this is, you really want to come into this industry sector and understand nature and environment. I can see it in your eye, I can see it from the way you speak, the passion comes through, and I'll give them a chance. Obviously, they'll try, and they'll just carry on. If they can succeed and stay in this job for a while longer, after 3 months, right, they will decide and realize whether they want to stay on or not. I've been quite fortunate. Many of my staff from different disciplines have stayed on for the last 2, 3, 4 years now. Some of just came in recently, and they've all just begun to become part of the company and beginning to enjoy. So I look at this very importantly, right? I think employers really want to understand, right, where you come from, how you speak, how you present yourself. What you studied might not be a passion as well. Your passion would develop as you go along, and employers can see that. And if a good employer understands you, he will also then help you to develop yourself, help to develop you more further as well, because you'll contribute to the company eventually. Thank you.
Yeah, if I may add, I have interviewed people for the last 40 years. I think I've learned, when I look at the resume, most important is whether they play in the university. Are they just pure bookworm? That's the most important, because I find with time, social skill, working with people, working around people, working under, working above people is very important. And that you can only derive when you're young. You play a lot, you join society, you do a lot of things, not just looking at the books. And that's the first criteria. Second, I try to avoid people who present very well. I like to ask them exactly what they do. Because when they describe to you what they do, can tell a lot. Sometimes can write a lot of nice things, but when you ask them to describe exactly what they do, that the truth will come, because then they get stung. So that's my take. I think when it comes to skills, I feel that tertiary education is only a way for you to learn how to learn when you go to work. Very important, I feel. Because in the universities you have to research, you have to do projects. It teaches you how to learn. And I realized that your study is really just a secondary part.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kim. Geraldine, what about you? Yeah.
Yeah, hi. So I resonate a lot with the two other panelists here. And one thing that we are all in right now, I would describe as the VUCA environment. So VUCA, which stands for volatility, complexity, ambiguity, and uncertainty, right? And with that, I think it's an attitude to how do you adapt, how do you be agile to thrive in this environment. The other thing, it's about growth mindset as well. How do you always think about what's next? How do you improve yourself? Reflection on your failures, and how do you grow from that as well? And where are the gaps that you might have? Again, because it's all digital space, we're all in hybrid motion, it's how you're collaborative, how do you bring together the problem-solving skills? I think that to me is quite important, and resonating with Vera, who said that he likes to bring in different people of different backgrounds. Same with me, I like to put together a team where people have different strengths and they complement each other as well.
a while back, I was having lunch with one of the chief HR people in the government. I mean, and this is PSD, right? And he's an alumni, so he can speak freely with me, at least with off the record. He says that, Prof. Lloyd, basically what we do is we do a study of exactly who we hire every year. If it turns out that we're hiring too many people from one discipline, next year we'll avoid those. Right? So yeah, people, the people who are hiring are very keen on this. They don't just want everyone who come out in the same cookie cutter, because it's not going to help them solve problems, right? And you want to add something to it? Shall we move on to a different question, right? How can industries and both industries and employees remain relevant in this kind of ever-changing workforce, right? So maybe you can also go towards that direction as well. Yeah. Wenyan, yeah.
Oh, okay. So on to that question. Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
So I think COVID-19 has really upended the world and revolutionized how we live and work. I think for industries and employees to really adapt is important. And I think I echo the same word again, adaptability, as what was mentioned by the other panelists earlier. We really need to be able to adapt. I mean, for employers to adapt to how the changing needs of how employees are working now. I mean, many of us are working from home. But going in the longer run, this may not be the ideal way for companies to build team spirit, or for companies to come up with new ideas or to be innovative. So what is the way forward? I think industries and employees will need to chart the way forward together. And also, I think about the changing needs of the end customers, the consumers. Every industries are undergoing changes. So what exactly are the new needs of the consumers? We cannot assume that what worked in the past would continue to work in the future. And so for employees to add value to the organization, they would need to open up their eyes and ears to the customers. These customers may be internal or external, to understand what changes have undergone, and then offer solutions for the companies to adapt to the new, be it the new lifestyle or the new preferences of the customers. Yeah, so adaptability really is key to me.
Yeah, thanks very much. That is really helpful. I don't know whether, do all four of you interview? I mean, I know I already heard a couple of you already talk about interviewing people already. Are all four of you in the business of having to interview job candidates? Yeah, I think so, right? Yeah. So here's an obvious question that people always ask. So what are you looking for? I know that Kim already started looking for people who play already, right? But actually, I'm quite curious. Are there, apart from people who play, are there specific things that you look for? And I'm going to ask some of you. And more specifically, will coming to the company with a kind of an interdisciplinary background, being interdisciplinary trained, depending on what that means, right? Bring value, will it be perceived as bringing value to the workplace? My own sense of it is a lot. I mean, that's only one factor, because it really depends on what else you bring to the table, right? Whether it's interdisciplinary or specialization, that's one part. That's only one part of the equation. It's the whole person that matters, especially when Kimi was talking about, do you even play, right? Those things are not even about what you study, right? Who wants to get a start on this? What are some of the important qualities you look for when you hire them that will persuade you to hire them? And will having an interdisciplinary trained background, graduate background, sort of advantage them or bring value to the workplace? Yeah. Anyone want to go first?
Yeah, I can go.
Yeah.
I think during my time, I studied science only. No chance to study other subjects. Everything is about science. Now that I look at what the university is doing, adding humanities, other subject, a lot of elective module, I think it's fantastic. A lot of time when the candidates come, I mean, to my horror, some of them don't even know the geopolitics of our region. I mean, Singapore, for us, our best survivor is always ASEAN, right? Sometimes you can go beyond ASEAN, but really it's ASEAN. That's our play for business. And they don't even understand the geography. Sometimes I ask them, how big is Indonesia? What's the population? Oh, they say, I don't know. When I tell them it's 270 million, they get a shock. I think some of these things they have to know. They have to understand the culture a little bit, because again, for most of business in Singapore, you have to go out. You got to understand the people. You want to work with them. You really have to know them. And I think this is where the interdiscipline really is helpful. I really am happy that this is the direction the university is taking.
Yeah. Geraldine, you want to chip in as well? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe adding on to Kimeng, right? Like when I was an NUS science graduate, I had a very good opportunity of doing an exchange in Australia, and that really
Wow.
broadened up my perspective. And I totally agree with what he said earlier about us being exposed to what the world has to offer, how people are thinking, how the different courses are being taught elsewhere as well. And to me, I think the transdisciplinary or interdisciplinary trained graduates, what they really bring is about critical lateral thinking skills, about how they can leverage those challenges to learn new things. So I'll give you an example. In an example of a product manager in a tech firm, you really need to know the engineering side of how things work. But you also need to know how consumers think, how consumers are using your product, your app, for example. And then this is just a perfect example of bringing an art and a science and even some psychology in that, right? Because you need market research and all that. And I just want to add as well, just from the government, Skills Future have also listed some of these critical core skills. And one of them is actually transdisciplinary thinking. So very valuable in my opinion, yeah.
Yeah. Wunian, you want to add something to that as well? And Vera?
Wait, Wunian.
Yeah, okay. Just wanted to add a practical example in terms of our hiring practices. I mean, in the newsroom, you would think that we would get most of our journalists from the mass comm school or journalism schools, but actually no, we do get people from other disciplines, and one of them is really engineering, in fact. I think what we look for is really the passion in the candidate in wanting to put the interest in news and all, and the value of getting someone from, say, an engineer come into the newsroom is really, it shakes things up within the team itself, because the engineer comes, they think differently. They're more process orientated, they're more organized, which is what sometimes a messy newsroom would need. And so we do see value in bringing talent and people from across disciplines, even within in the context of the newsrooms. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. And I know that Vera has been doing exactly that. Even in his sharing, he was mentioning some of this. Yeah.
I'll share this with you. Yes, 2 days ago, I interviewed an engineer. I met him by chance, and I was looking for someone who had an engineering background, because I was developing this IoT sensors for environmental sensors, because I'm doing some work to understand habitats and environment and ecosystems to mitigate climate change. So a totally different area of work, which is quite new and niche as well. So I met this engineer, and I had this very long conversation with him when he came in for an interview. After about half an hour, I realized he wasn't suitable. You know why? Because his only intention and the way he spoke was, I will only do engineering and nothing else. And I was there talking to him and explaining to him the opportunities that this was going to happen, trying to tease out an ounce of passion or some interest out of him, right? Which I usually do, because when I go back to NUS and give guest lectures, the lectures that I give to undergraduates are multidisciplinary lectures, right? I've got architects, engineers, business administration, law, and a range of different students. The last lecture I had about 80 students, and the questions never stop coming. They keep going on and on. And I thought I could actually then use that skill that I was able to inspire those kids, right? With this guy who graduated, and he's out of a job, He just left his job. He was actually doing a job with a startup. And he basically looked at me and he was telling me, right, Mr. Vera, I know this is engineering, but I don't think I can do IoT sensors. I don't want to learn this. I don't want to learn that. I don't want to. He basically said he didn't want to learn anything new. And I found that to be very, very strange, right? I said, how can you go on in life having this thinking, even though you're first-class honest engineer, but he doesn't want to learn anything new. And I said, that's any employer who listens to someone like that will almost immediately say, sorry, this guy is not for me, right? They want to get someone, a candidate or an employee who's got a little bit more than just wanting to learn more and give more and to keep on developing themselves. And I think that's a two-way street that an employer would want. It's not someone who comes and says, right, I don't want to learn anything. I just want to do what I'm trained in only. And I think that's the wrong thinking. You'll never get a job. It'll never last very long that way.
Yeah, well, that's a very sobering thought, actually. And one of your shares just now about how university is really more about learning to learn more than the content of the subject itself, right? Because the content of the subject, yes, it's important, right? Especially in technical fields, but you know what, the knowledge does go out on day one, So even if you are in the technical fields and you don't refresh yourself, it doesn't actually work, right? Yeah, but more importantly, if you don't pick up those general ability, that general aptitude and ability to learn, then of course it's going to be very troublesome because you will need to learn new things, right? Okay, someone asked, do employers look at the university name of a potential applicant and how relevant how relevant are the grades when it comes to hiring, or is the focus more on experience and internship? Now, this is actually the kind of question that our career advisors have been helping our students with for years already, right? But actually, maybe we hear from actual employers. So do you guys actually look at the person's grades and transcripts and see what universities they come from? Do you guys bother? Who wants to go first? Kim-Ing, do you bother?
Yeah, I think grades is not important. But I do think the university they come from, will tell a little bit of their I would say the word IQ, because I think you need certain grade to enter certain universities, right? But that's not the deciding. But I think I do look at it. If I have a choice, I look at these two, and one from NUS, one from a private university.
Oh, okay, don't say anything.
Then, then I think, these are the things that I ponder, but I look at other things. This is practically, that's what I feel. All these years, we have seen the difference.
Yeah.
Grades is not important.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll just.
For me, grades also not important.
So maybe I'll just add. Mine is more quantitative, right? If I'm a data scientist, I want to hire data scientists. I'll give them a test anyway. So regardless of whether you come from the best or the second best, you have to pass our test first, and then we will interview you. So regardless, right?
Yeah, that's right. Even when it comes to technical fields, they may just test you nonetheless, right? Yeah, Wen-Yan, what about you?
Yeah, likewise, I echo what Geraldine said. We will have a test, a written language test. I think that's the basic. And beyond that, the interview is of utmost importance. Someone can score very well for the written test, but if during the interview, we suss out that the candidate is, like what Vera said, is not open-minded, not really passionate about the industry, not even willing to learn, then I think no matter what grades the candidate scored in the qualifying test or how well the transcript is written and all in the university, it wouldn't make a difference. Yeah.
So there is a question from the floor. What exactly do CHS grads do in the healthcare sector, especially those on life sciences? So technically, we haven't actually graduated anyone from CHS yet, right? However, we do have many, many years of people who graduated from Department of Biological Sciences, and some of them are in the healthcare sector. Many of them are involved in research, right? Research and development. But there are even others who are not doing the research, but they are in those spaces because they are familiar with the details of the space. Maybe they're doing other things. Maybe they're doing writing, they're doing HR, they're doing other things that support the business of the healthcare sector, right? So there's a whole variety. But that question actually, ideally, if you want to, you can even email the Department of Biological Sciences directly, actually. Did any of you graduate from DBS? Maybe not. No, so it may not be.
I did. I'm from.
Oh, you did, yeah. So where do all your people usually end up working? In the healthcare sector, especially.
Yeah. So I'm the only one probably, right? No, two of my classmates are in the botany, in the area of botany.
Okay.
Everyone else became bankers, teachers, and all the other disciplines, all the other professional jobs is out there. So so many of us have not pursued the field of expertise that we were trained in. I'm fortunate to have carried on, but then I've also forayed and developed new ideas and new skill sets and started new businesses as well. So I've got few other businesses that I have, right, which are very, very specific, also along the lines of environment and nature and greening. So so I think it's not that what you're trained in, but I think what you go out there and do as you go along, right? So my classmates all became very different professionals in many different areas. So it opened up. So as what Kim-Ing said, right, the university just gives you a paper to start. Then basically after that, your careers and your jobs, also you start to understand what your passion is as you go out and do what you want to do. So there's no exact formula. I can't give you a formula. And everyone asks you, what's the formula for all this? There's no formula, I think, honestly, right? It's just you trying to explore and discover your own passions as you get on in age.
Yeah, a while back, I actually met a someone who graduated from chemical engineering from the UK, one of our Singaporean person, and she's now the CEO of a French, investment company. Their branch in Singapore, private investment. So again, and then we have a Flossie Greg, who is a founder of a tech startup, and she sold the tech startup to the New York Stock Exchange for many millions of dollars. So she's definitely a lot richer than the person who taught her. That's me, right? So it's really hard to predict. Yes, there are many graduates who do things that are sort of like, you kind of expect it. Okay, you learn science and then you end up in research in the outfit, or you learn sociology and you do that kind of work, But actually, there are many other graduates of FASS and FOS that they don't fit this trend at all. They do what they're passionate in. They make use of the things they have learned to add value to the places where they're passionate in. Yeah.
Can I add, we talk about the biological science students, right? In the healthcare sectors today, there are many jobs that's not found in other sectors. For instance, like regulatory, you in the healthcare sector, you need to have product registration. And if you are a biological science student, it helps a lot to understand the jargon.
Yes.
And of course, now in the healthcare industry, because there's so many different tech, right? How does the government pay for it? Then, you have to, there's a new field we call market access, where somebody, if you know biological science, it helps a lot. You put together your reasoning, your trial, your funding model, whatever, to convince the government that, you should pay for this. And that's market access, which is not common in other fields. And of course, today, if you look at the hospital, those who wants to work in the hospital, last time, the people who run the department or the admin people are mostly the clinicians themselves, right? The nurses. But today it's separated. You have ops manager, ops executive. If you're in the biological science, it helps a lot because you have to understand the job. But all this you can learn on the spot. But if you have some understanding, I think it helps a lot. So I think the healthcare field, other than the traditional things that you do, I think there are a lot of options for the students today, because the industry needs regulation. It's flourished a lot, changing all the time. Today you may be using this, tomorrow you're using something else because it's better outcome. So there's a lot of evolving going on.
Okay, we're actually coming close to time already. I want to ask two final rounds of questions. So the first one is, just short one. When do you guys know what is it you wanted to study, or what is it you wanted to do, right? What kind of career you wanted? Was it before university, during university? How do you come to that kind of realization? Quick one. Who wants to go first? Or too personal, I hope it's not.
I can go first.
Okay, go ahead.
As I mentioned, when I was young, I already wanted to be a business owner. The reason is perhaps I grew up in the market selling things, so maybe that's very, very natural. And why I got in the healthcare industry is opportunity. It just came because I needed a job in the university to fund my studies. Instead of giving tuition, this job came along and I just got into the industry. And I think, liking is something that you keep focusing, you keep upgrading, you keep learning, and then this is where you find interest in it. It doesn't matter which industry. It's just fortunately or unfortunately, I landed in the medtech industry.
Yeah. Vera, how do you get? Well, I think you kind of shared as well.
Yeah, I'm basically because I'm a late entrepreneur. I started my business. I failed two businesses, and I then went back to the civil service, and I came back and started another business again. That's Gerinology, which is about 14 years old now. And I started my business when I was 40 odd, right? So close to about late 40s, and I started my final business, Gerinology. And after that, I started another 3 other businesses, right? So I'm a late entrepreneur, but I think I realized that I figured that following my passion, and people ask me, right, as an entrepreneur, right, you are chasing after money and going after as much wealth as possible. And I keep telling people, right? There was just recently Enterprise Singapore did an interview with me in the back of a car, how business leaders survive COVID. I basically then told them, right, for me, it's not about chasing money. And I made it clear to entrepreneurs out there that, you know, I chased my passion. And I realized what my passion was quite late and quite early, but then as it went on, I realized I turned my passion into business and entrepreneurship as well. And I realized that I don't chase money, but once I'm good at what I'm doing, money chases me. And that's ideal for me, right? Because I enjoy what I'm doing and it's not work, and I love what I'm doing because then it also pays people. When I give my services and what I talk about, people see the glint in my eye and they're willing to buy the services for whatever price that I'm offering them. And it's an ideal stage that I'm in, right, at this point in time. So it's been a journey, and the journey is also about lifelong learning as well. And you saw the video that I sent out, right? For me, it's about lifelong learning, and I will always tell you, right, that's what it's all about. It's always about lifelong learning.
Yeah, we'll make
Fully
that.
agree, Vera.
Thank you, Kim Eng.
I'll make the video available. Yeah, Win Yen?
Yeah, and I like Kim Ming, who knows right from the start that he wants to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know. In fact, even when choosing the university major, I didn't know. But I think what I went with was knowing what my strengths are and pursuing what I'm interested in. So I knew I was interested in numbers. I was good at maths and I love Chinese. So I pursued accounting and finance in university. And then thereafter got a job that allowed me to use that plus Chinese. So which was business journalism in Chinese. So I think really play to your strengths, know your strengths, and go along with your passions and interests. And you won't go far wrong. Yeah.
Very nice. Geraldine? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the same. I said I'm not a Chinese expert, so I like dealing with consumers. I like how people think in terms of consumerism. So that's where I am right now. Also marrying the passion for numbers again. And that's where it has brought me thus far. And I'm still hoping to see where my other strengths are to also be learning more in that area as well. So I think it's a lifelong learning.
Yeah. Okay. So participants and students. So the audience. So we have a link there for the feedback. Please go ahead and click on it. You can see in the Zoom chat. Please give us some simple feedback for this session. But let's do one very final one. Please restrict yourself to just 2 sentences. Final words of advice to the people who have been listening today, especially the prospective students who are, as they think about university application and future careers. Kim Eng.
Okay, my advice, as you probably will know, don't just study. Do something beyond study in your 3 years in the university.
4 years.
Whether it's play or, join some society, some community service, work on it, because I think it give you different aspects and helps to develop your career, which is very important in the long run, not the knowledge you know.
Yeah, very good. Vera?
Explore, discover, and to have a exploring mind, and to then discover your passion as you go along. Kim Eng is right? I played games, all kinds of games in university. I played soccer, rugby, I did marathons, I did all kinds of stuff. Half the time I was never in class. It's a very bad example, right? Sorry to say that, but that didn't stop me from pursuing my passion, because I realized that being an outdoor person was also something that helped me to understand my passion as well. So the discovery was very different from just rote learning and just mugging. It didn't work. It doesn't work that way for many of us.
Yeah. Win Yen?
Hi, an extension of what Kim and Vera has mentioned. I think what's important beyond books is really networking. Broaden your social circle, broaden your network, be it via other activities or projects that you embark on. It broadens your perspective, and also the broadened social context will help you, and you never know how it might benefit you later on in life, be it personal life or your career-wise. It will come back helpful. Yeah.
Thanks so much. That's so helpful. Geraldine, yeah.
I think it's about remaining curious, having that growth mindset, and don't be afraid to make the mistakes, because you learn from it. You learn from your strengths, your weaknesses as well. And I wanted to say the network effect, but that has been covered. The other thing is about finding a mentor if you can, as you step into your 3rd year or 4th year, right? That can help you and coach you along the way as well.
You guys have been great. Thank you so much, all four of you. I hope that this sharing has been useful to all of you who are in the audience. Remember, our job today really is, and our intention really is to help inform you a little bit about, just careers and industry out there, so that as you make your choices, you are in a better frame of mind, right? So don't just think, in terms of, I want to study X because I want to do Y. It doesn't always work like that, right? We hope that this has been helpful to you. Thanks so much, all of you. And let's hand the time back to Lynn and Mark. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. Loy, and our panelists for the very insightful session. To our prospective students, we hope that now you have a better idea of your employability and your career prospects if you become one of our students. But before we conclude, we would like you to participate in a quick poll, please. The questions should be appearing on your screen in a very short time. Yes. Okay, so there are just 4 questions.
Yeah, so it would be very helpful for you to answer these questions for us, just 4 very, very quick questions. This will help us to understand a little bit more about our session and how you found it, and will help us to plan future events as well. So hopefully this has been a really helpful one. I think all of us found it very, very insightful. It's always good to hear from people who are also outside the university and who kind of represent also life beyond, which is actually what we are all looking forward to. I would like to also highlight some of the other talks that we have coming up today. We're kind of drawing the first half of the day to a close, but it certainly doesn't end here. So from 2 p.m. onwards, we have a whole bunch of exciting panels and talks from our different departments, from Asian Studies to Humanities to Social Sciences, and then also from our colleagues in the Faculty of Science. So all of these things are going on, and you can find out more about what talks are happening at our website. So chs.nus.edu.sg. Yeah, chs.nus.edu.sg. You can click into the schedule, download the program schedule, and then find out exactly what talk is happening at what time, and then go and join those talks to find out more about what life is like here at NUS. Yeah, so for those of you who haven't yet answered the poll questions, you can go ahead and do that. In the meantime, also, if you have any further questions, you can continue to get in touch with us and stay in contact with us via email and by phone. So the relevant contacts are up on your screen right now. So ask chs@nus.edu.sg, and then also by phone if that's something that's more convenient for you. Otherwise, all the information that you need will be on the website as well, so you can have a look at that and yeah, just keep in touch and find out more along the way. And then yeah, we hope to see you we hope to see you when the new semester starts. Yeah. Okay, so our poll has ended. Thank you very much for responding. And for joining us for this session and for kind of this first half of sessions in the morning. Yeah, thank you very much to all the panelists. Thanks, Prof. Loy. And we'll see you in the afternoon sessions. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.